to start with, you do a lot: entrepreneurship, tech, social impact. And when I really think about passion, I think about the kind of person who is really focused on one thing, but you do a lot. And this is a very open-ended question, and it's really intended to be so. But to start with, we'd really like to know what motivates you. What's driving you to make these sort of changes and actions?
Thank you so much for asking this question. I get asked this a lot, and it's always very hard for me to put all my passion, the drive that I have, into few words. In brief, at heart, I consider myself an enterprising individual. I have an unquenchable curiosity, I have boundless imagination, and definitely an undying drive to harness all my abilities and to accelerate my achievements. And really, one of the biggest passions that I have is to be able to elevate others along the way as I personally continue to grow with my purpose, and also by continuing to do more and advancing my own agenda and accomplishments. Over the last decades, my efforts have taken many forms, as you already know from knowing a little bit about me. But what truly motivates me to do all of this is my passion for solving complex problems and exploring new paradigms that bridge design and technology with business and social innovation. I always wanted to find new ways to create those bridges because I think those are the most powerful tools that can help us to advance our collective experience across different levels. But they could also help us to create more progressive societies where people are enabled to truly thrive. For me, the emphasis has always been on making positive change through everything that I do, whether that is through my speaking engagements or my writings or by mentoring other entrepreneurs or advising companies or through my own business and impact initiatives and investments and partnerships. This is really what I also strive to empower other entrepreneurs to do as well. I think we have so much power as individuals who have grand visions and skills and abilities. And if we can harness all of that to give back and to empower others as well, I think we could create tremendous change. And for me, this is really the most important aspect of being alive, is to create something that can have a ripple effect and a legacy to leave behind before we go.
Yeah, it's so inspiring to hear you say that. And I just wonder, when you talk about solving problems and elevating others, why do you believe that technology was the right medium for changing the future? Why is that the process of your innovation?
I don't believe that technology is the right medium or the only medium. I believe there are different mediums that can help us to achieve change at a global scale. But technologies have a very special power. They don't only alter our habits, they also rewire our brains. And this is a very particular influence that technologies can have. If there is anything powerful enough to change the future, is changing how we think about our existence and how we perceive our reality. And I believe that technology is one of the most powerful tools to do that, but it's not the only one.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting because I mean, personally, when I think of technology, you kind of touch on this. It's like this blend of abstractly changing our perspective, understanding the place that technology could have in that field, but also it's a very structured and logical approach to that form of change. So I would love to know, really, within your company and within tech, what goes into account when considering the social impact of your technology?
If you don't mind, I'm going to give our listeners a quick overview about the company and the work that we do, just so everyone is on the same page in terms of what we do in terms of technology. And I'll touch base on the impact aspects of our technology as well. First of all, ID4A Technologies is a global B2B technology company that specializes in the design and development of customized automation solutions to accelerate manufacturing processes. We leverage the capabilities of multiple exponential technologies such as artificial intelligence, AI, machine vision, industrial robotics, machine learning, advanced analytics to increase efficiency, accuracy, productivity, scalability, and flexibility across the entire manufacturing cycle while reducing time, cost, and waste. When it comes to impact, there are many considerations that we take into account. Since the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, I was holding to my vision despite the prevalent negative beliefs and perceptions that business can do good and profitability equates with low societal value. I personally was determined to build a dynamic company that not only provides a value added innovation, but also integrating greater causes in our mission and business strategies. So, since I founded the company in 2011, we were able to scale one of the world's most impactful, fastest growing private companies. And we've been leading at the forefront of industrial automation and manufacturing technologies for nearly a decade now. But through our innovations and commitments to the sustainable development goals, we have been able to go beyond innovating at a technological or technical level. We've been able to contribute to building resilient infrastructures. We've been able to promote sustainable industrialization and fostering innovation. We've been able to ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. We've been also able to reduce workplace inequalities, improving worker safety. We've been able to provide decent work. We've been also able to advance gender equality and reducing labor exploitation and global production pipelines through all the strategies that we've been implementing over the years while integrating the latest advancements in technology when it comes to automation and robotics. And many people ask this question, how do you actually achieve that? So when we talk about automation, when we optimize the operations of our customers and automate their processes, what we are doing is we are increasing productivity and efficiency. We're also reducing waste and harmful emissions. And we're also incorporating recycling methods and sustainable materials in production. So at that level, we are generating a tremendous environmental impact. We track varied single and complex metrics to measure the environmental, social, and economic impacts of our technology and innovative solutions, as well as the efficiencies that they generate for our customers. Since we started, I'm sure the numbers will change once we reevaluate at the end of this year, but so far we have 1,681 manufacturing businesses. Those were clients that adopted sustainable production practices and integrated information in their reporting cycles through their partnership with us and through being our clients and adopting our innovations. So that's, tremendous impact when it comes to the number of businesses that we were able to reach so far. Aside from the sustainability and economic benefits of our technology, we are also pioneers in our mission to eradicate exploitation of labor and to reduce inequalities in global production pipelines and in industrial manufacturing plants. So while assisting our customers to embrace the Industry 4.0 and IIoT, we are also supporting them in the upskilling and training of their workforce as they move into new higher skilled occupations. And in the process of partnering with our clients and global organizations, we've been able to not only reduce workplace inequalities, we've been able to promote inclusive and sustainable economic growth. We've been able to improve a worker's safety and provide productive employment and decent work, and advancing gender equality by implementing strategies that can bring in more women into leadership roles and into more sophisticated and technical jobs that they didn't necessarily have access before. So as an impact-driven technology company, we've been able to address multiple issues, not only on the social level, on the economic and on the environmental level. When it comes to the number of people, we so far have impacted nearly 2 million industry workers around the world over the last 8 years. There are over 285,000 people who gained employment in the industrial sector as a result of our products and services, including more than 64,000 individuals of minority groups. There are more than 89,000 women who were provided steady jobs, more than 2,700 who were trained for leadership roles. We're talking about more than 900,000 people who were provided improved, safe, and secure work environments, and more than 1.5 million people who were saved from exploitative jobs, including almost 500,000 were women and girls who were victims of trafficking or child labor. So there's so much effort being put in the background when it comes to creating impact at these multiple levels and different commitments to the sustainable development goals as well. So I hope this gives you a more rounded overview about the impact of our technology, which goes way beyond the technological advancement at the technical level, but also there's tremendous social impact that we're able to create by tapping into equality issues and reducing exploitation and providing the education and training to people. It's a very complex strategy that we implement, but we're so proud of the results we've been able to achieve over the years. And I hope other companies can learn from the success we've been able to achieve as well.
Absolutely. I think that's what's so impactful to me personally is just like the levels of impact that you and your company have been able to succeed in doing. And it really reinforces my belief that business is going to be the future of philanthropy, and it's how we're going to make the most effective change. Because Jody and I were part of a startup accelerator at the College of Charleston, and we tried our hand at making a tech company called MyCodely. Yet it truly is, due to companies like you and entrepreneurs like you who've been at the forefront of technical advances that are the inspiration for us personally. And because you have been so impactful for so long, do you have any thoughts about the defining innovations or the technologies that are going to come up within the next 5 to 10 years and continue to be catalysts for change?
We are at a point where there has been a tremendous shift, as you know, with the COVID-19 and the shift towards more and more digitization and people becoming much more aware of the power of the internet in order to not only create their own economy, but also to keep moving into the future with the new economy as it evolves into more digitization. I think right now, what I'm seeing, there are multiple areas that are becoming super exciting, and I think that they will have tremendous impact moving forward. One of those that top the conversation today is space tourism and going to space and invading space again with companies like Virgin Galactic and SpaceX and even Amazon's Blue Origin, if you're familiar with the work that they're doing as well. So there's a lot of work that's being done in that arena that I think is going to be exciting when it comes to accelerating innovation related to space engineering, space tourism, and aerospace engineering. I think there's so much that's happening, not only from the technological aspect, but also from the aspect of expanding our aspirations as humans. Robots, I think, are going to continue to be one of the most impactful technological innovations moving forward, especially as we have been forced into more remote type of work, less physical interaction in the last year and a half. And I think that's going to become part of the norm moving forward as well. So robots are going to become more of a norm than they used to be. And I think people are starting to understand that robots can take on more difficult and dangerous jobs, and they are essential to saving lives in certain types of jobs. They can also operate more quickly and efficiently with way fewer mistakes than humans do. And of course, there's a lot of fear, as you know, around robots and replacing humans, but I totally believe that humans have much more capabilities to leverage and to use than only doing very dull and mechanical jobs that robots can do. We could leverage the human brain for innovation rather than focusing so much on labor work. So there needs to be a shift in mindset as well over the next 5, 10 years in order for people to adapt faster to the changes that are happening in the technological arena. Other innovations that I think are going to be exciting as we move forward. Technologies like self-driving cars, electric cars are becoming also a huge topic. There's a lot of effort in creating more infrastructures to increase efficiency when it comes to car technologies, to make these technologies a lot more affordable and to make the ownership of an electric car a lot more feasible for people who want to be able to get around. So there's an infrastructural problem that we're still dealing with, but in the next 5 to 10 years, with more companies like Tesla and others pushing towards those kind of efficient transportation technologies, I think there's a lot of room there that will be defining as well within the next 5 to 10 years. Of course, you've heard about what's happening with Hyperloop and hyperfast trains as well. So, which is another Elon Musk backed company with Hyperloop. That's also going to be another area of innovation that will be absolutely transformative in transportation and efficiency. Hopefully, we could start to see this become a reality within the next decade. There's so much, honestly. I mean, of course, with VR technologies, with augmented reality or AR, there's incredible potential that companies are also starting to tap into, not just for entertainment, but also for enabling people and making those tools become essential to communication and collaboration. Especially in the last year and a half, with things changing and social distancing, I think companies are starting to realize the importance of using both augmented reality and virtual reality devices in the workplace, not only for visual representation and development of concepts, but also to enable virtual team meetings and virtual collaboration as well. And this is a very exciting area that's going to be definitely changing or becoming part of the transformation that's happening in the area of the future of work. Those are some of the most essential technologies that I think we're going to be leveraging when it comes to the workplace environment as well. What else can I think about? Oh, one thing also that I'm not sure if you have heard of what's happening with not the Wi-Fi, but now we're talking about a different technology that's called the Li-Fi. Li-Fi has been experimented with for the last few years. There's a tremendous potential for uber fast data transfer speeds. So Li-Fi is basically using light to transmit data rather than Wi-Fi, which transmits radio waves. This will be absolutely transformative within the next 5 to 10 years as well. Theoretically, it's capable of transmitting data at a much higher speed, and it's also much less prone to interferences than Wi-Fi. So there's tremendous potential there. If Li-Fi becomes more of our new type of technology to use, I think it would be absolutely incredible. If it takes off, it will be considerably cheaper than using the Wi-Fi. It's crazy. The visible light spectrum is about 10,000 times larger than the radio spectrum. So there's more potential for bandwidth there. So this is a very exciting area for me as well, that I think it would really transform how everybody communicates moving forward, especially as collaboration and the future of work transforming and more remote work and more digitization. I think transmitting data is going to become one of the most critical aspects of enabling these new norms of existence and collaboration in the world. Of course, AI is all around us now. It's in machines and robots and our smartphones, but it could eventually start to find its way into more products as we move forward. So those are really some of the most exciting innovations that I can think of right now that we should definitely keep an eye on moving forward.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you really started that comment with COVID and how that's changed things. And now with everything you've just said, I can't imagine how the workplace will look in even, January of 2020 versus January of 2030. That's going to be a pretty monumental shift, I would assume. And speaking of monumental shifts, this is a very different type of question now. But You have been recognized by the White House, United Nations, UK Parliament, and I could literally just keep going. And a lot of people would categorize that as having succeeded in life, but you're still going. Your passions continue and your interests continue and your work continues. So I would love to hear what your personal measures of success are. And have they kind of changed as you've progressed and completed more of your goals and passions?
This is a great question, especially as you mentioned that the concept of success keeps changing as we progress as individuals. Success itself is subjective, and it should only be measured within each individual's framework of self progression. And it's not in relation to the progress or achievements of others, which is normally a trap that a lot of people fall into. In other words, what I want to achieve is unique to my own vision, to my own talents, standards, and expectations that I set for myself, not to anybody else. This applies, of course, to everyone. There are universal guidelines through which we all recognize what success looks like, but you must understand your motivations and be able to set intrinsic goals. It's very easy to set extrinsic goals, and many people slip into disillusionment by what success means and how to achieve it. Big part of it is the culture we live in. We live in a culture that sets particular images of what success look like. And success is not a particular image that you portray. It's more of a state of existence. It's a state of mind. It's a state of action. It's not a particular look. If you look a certain way, or if you live in a certain, or your house looks a certain way, or your car, or how you dress, that's a sign that you are successful, because we've seen so many examples of people being uber wealthy and hyper successful, but you can meet them anywhere on the street. They talk to people, they look so humble, they act in a very down to earth manner, and you will never guess what they've been through, what they have achieved. When you start to depend on external symbols of what defines success, you're already taking the wrong motivational path, and you have no real metrics to measure your own. I believe that real success can only be achieved when you embody who you are, follow what is true to you. Otherwise, we'd be building one big lie of a life, because as soon as external symbols dissolve or they get replaced by new trendy ones, we become irrelevant as individuals, along with everything we built on such faulty bases. So it's critical to recognize this early on, to live with integrity, to also have a fulfilling human experience and achieve true success in the long run. I believe that nothing can be more fulfilling than the success that is backed by tangible results, that is empowered by vision, by an unwavering commitment to excellence, and uncompromising moral standards. Because in spite of any validating results as well, when your morality fails, you fail. So the different aspects that I personally look at when it comes to what success means: am I living with integrity? Am I following my vision in order to achieve what I want? Am I committed to excellence? Am I making sure that I'm not compromising my moral standards? Am I being true to myself? Those are really the questions that I continually ask myself to make sure that I could say at the end of, okay, I'm succeeding at life. I'm succeeding at being myself, because it's all aligned with who I am. With time, of course, as you start to build businesses and you start to expand, when it comes to entrepreneurial success, I also don't believe that there is one particular factor that can contribute to the success of any business or any entrepreneur. It's really about consciously orchestrating a set of skills, leveraging opportunities, adding value, strategizing and executing plans, investing in people, nurturing networks, constantly evolving, because really no achievement can happen by luck overnight. It takes years of persistent work with so many sacrifices, so many mistakes, so many losses. But for me, this is really what as I personally evolve, I always feel like I'm starting. And if you always keep yourself in check, where your ego never gets in the way of growing and learning and maintaining that childlike curiosity, you can continue to expand your horizons and redefine what success means to you. There's no set rules. Again, you look at yourself and you check in with what you had promised yourself to do. And as long as you keep the promise to yourself to be who you are and to do the things that you want to do, for me, this is success. Never look at other people, never look at the image of success. Again, success is a state of being, is a state of mind, as a state of existence. It's not an image of some sort or something set in stone that you have to follow or look at other people. It's always something you have to compare you to yourself, to your own vision. And if you're staying true to you, you're succeeding at life.
Yeah, well, you mentioned, tangible results and tangible success. I just think the individual metrics, they often look different than external judgments or how others kind of perceive your success. Yet they're so critical in maintaining that internal sense of self and like perseverance. And I'm studying economics and data science. Jody is studying finance and computer science. And these are very much male dominated fields, and we're not even halfway through our college experience. And we've experienced some discrimination in these areas. And sometimes we're the only females in the room, right? The investment society that Jody joined, 85% or maybe 90% of them are males. And that's kind of hard. So entrepreneurship and tech are similarly male dominated. And we would really love to hear about your experience with becoming such an influential and successful woman in a male dominated area. And additionally, any advice you'd like to share with other young girls in STEM or entering male dominated fields on how to handle being in that situation.
Sure. First of all, I completely empathize with you because I understand what it's like from my own experience, what it's like for so many young women, so many girls, and so many new entrepreneurs who are females. Personally, carving my lane as a leader and rising to the top as a CEO of a company in two of the most complex, highly competitive, and historically male dominated industries, being both tech and manufacturing, it was not an easy game. It was a journey with tremendous challenges. On top of that, being an immigrant, I came to the US at a very young age. I came out of high school to go to college in the US. So, being an immigrant, a self starter, and a young entrepreneur in a new country, I occasionally faced prejudice, discrimination, and sabotage from random people that I encounter either at school or at work or places where people just don't like you for being different or from coming from another country or your race is such and such. So, in the early stages of growing my business, I also, on top of those other discriminatory issues, I faced blatant sexism. I had to break through many gender barriers. Whether my competencies got initially judged and stereotyped by physical appearance, by gender, by ethnicity, or behavioral expectations that are distinct to my occupation, I've seen all of it because people expect you as a CEO to look a certain way, or if you are in the technology or manufacturing space, they expect you to behave in a certain way. They definitely don't expect to see a woman. They definitely don't expect a young woman. And they definitely don't expect a young immigrant woman. So these experiences were really tough for me. And I have to admit that it took me a long time to start to talk about that because I didn't want to be a victim in my own story at all. So I've never really wanted to share those experiences. But over time, seeing what other girls and young women are going through, it became part of my duty to actually share about my experiences and also learn about theirs. What personally propelled me forward was my resilience. I was relentlessly persevering. I had a genuine desire to succeed. And I held on to my vision and my integrity and my self respect. And I would tell myself every single day, I'm here to teach the world to change. and to get it to say yes to me instead of me succumbing to inertia or reluctance to progress or any form of discrimination. So I always think that if you ever give in to adversities, or if you surrender to limitations or to how people treat you or think about you or how people want to box you in, you definitely wouldn't arrive anywhere. You would not. So my advice to brilliant young women like you and to young girls who are in STEM fields or going into fields that are male dominated, such as technology or other areas, when you stop discriminating against yourself, you take your power back from those who discriminate against you. As long as you can understand that you are equal, you are capable, you are brilliant, there's nothing different about you or about your capabilities, or your abilities are no less than the opposite sex, then you stop giving them the power over you to discriminate against you. And even if they did, you already took your power back because you refuse to accept that as a limitation. Protect your vision, protect your integrity, have self-respect, and learn how to teach the world to change instead of you surrendering to the limitations and the discriminations of others. I personally wouldn't have arrived to where I am today if I gave in. The same goes to you and to every woman out there.
That's just so beautifully said and so inspiring. And I know, I mean, Caroline and I, we're both very happy to be part of our generation, because I think this idea of contradicting adversity and, being a disruptive generation, and that's what we call Gen Z really on this podcast, because women are doing their thing regardless, and young people are getting involved in politics and entrepreneur, even though that's not necessarily what a lot of people expect. They're just doing it, and they're following that vision, and they voice what they want. And especially in the realm of sustainability and progress, they're very involved, and even tech really too. So we would love to kind of hear, in the context of especially that last question, what are your thoughts about Gen Z and where this generation you think is going to go in terms of progress and innovation and entrepreneurship?
One of the most beautiful things about this generation is they are not only, I know you talked about this generation being active and disruptive in terms of being involved and being vocal and being interested in advocating for sustainability and other issues. I think the beauty of this generation as well is that they have arrived at a place where there is so much wrong in the world. And I know this sounds weird, but it's a beautiful place to be as a generation where there are so many problems that they are in your face. There are so many adults or people that are older than you that have been part of creating these problems. And here you are given the chance to become part of creating solutions for these problems. So it's not a competition of generations. I would not say that, because of course there are many people from previous generations that are doing amazing work, and there are setting examples for the next generation to do amazing work as well. But Gen Z has the opportunity to be at the forefront of creating solutions for the world's most pressing issues that previous generations have either produced or they have failed to address. With this new energy, with this new awareness, with the new tools, with the new level of exposure that this generation has to not only acquire skills fast, but also to connect quickly, to mobilize people quickly, to rally and bring people around new ideas, I think there's so much power to be leveraged there, especially when it comes to bringing more awareness, expanding your voice and growing it, and bringing more people to rally around and support these ideas. And the more awareness we can bring in to the problems, the more vocal this generation gets, the more persistent they get about becoming part of the solution creation process. There's tremendous potential for innovation within a very short period of time. I don't think it will take more than 5 to 10 years for this new generation to make tremendous impact on the next 50 to 100 years. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to people with energy, people with drive, people with ambition that are young, that they see potential in themselves, they see the problems, they have ideas, they have solutions, and they have the stamina to see them through. So that's my take on the future generation of entrepreneurship and innovation.
Yeah, I love how you center that around solutions, because we do talk a lot about, we were born right around 9/11 here in the US, and we went to school during an era where there were lots of lockdowns because of gun issues. And we are very much so close to issues that are very close to a lot of people's hearts. And we've seen environmental issues. We're experiencing this firsthand. And I think women have a very big part in this solution, because for the first time, and I don't want to say the first time, but women are beginning to really see themselves at not only having a seat at the table, but having a central seat at the table. And that's inspiring other women to want to be involved in global solution in building, global, progress. And I personally do believe that that's going to make women integral to building these solutions, solving these complex problems. So I would really, love to hear what steps, really tangible steps, as you're talking about, are critical for championing these women entrepreneurs and change makers and solution builders, because they're crucial. They're absolutely crucial.
Sure. First of all, I want to elaborate on the issues of gender discrimination and disparities, so anyone who is listening to us can formulate a better perspective about the reality women live in, because a lot of people are either in denial or they are absolutely ignorant about the reality, because there is that fake image that we did reach equity, we did reach equality, when in fact, on the ground, this is so far away from the truth. And especially when it comes to areas of innovation and tech fields, despite the powerful economic incentives for women to get into tech fields, for example, we remain challenged by sexist discrimination and society's failure at dissolving all gender barriers to integrate women fairly and efficiently in the global economy. So what you were talking about is making more room for women to become integral. We need to be able to dissolve all the barriers that get in the way of integrating them fairly and efficiently in the global economy in order for them to participate in the solution creation problem. On one hand, there's a historical difficulty of penetrating male-dominated fields. There is unfair accommodation. There is lack of understanding of women's challenges and needs, which make such environments repulsive. And they may also add to the poor integration and advancement of women in these occupations. So this is one area we need to really tackle. On another note, gender stereotyping is deeply rooted in social conventions and beliefs. Women who defy role stereotypes and conventional career patterns, they rarely endure because they get caught up between either resisting or accommodating masculine politics in the world around them. So this is another responsibility that women have towards themselves, is to really decide where they want to focus themselves. If they want to play the game of social conventions and beliefs and getting caught up between accommodating masculine politics or resisting change. So we also as women have responsibility to help ourselves integrate better within the systems. We have major issues. There's gender disparity in leadership and in STEM fields. It perpetuates existing stereotypes about the role of women, both at work and in broader society. It also magnifies inequity when we don't have enough women leaders. Male domination in technology, for example, persists not because more men step forward, but because few women do. So again, we have to look at ourselves. Where are we not doing the right thing to advance our own equality within society? So it's not only about the system is that way and other people are doing this. What can we do to change ourselves to make it possible for us to do our own job? Part of it is also taking that responsibility and the power back and making the decisions for ourselves, what we need to change in order to be able to integrate ourselves better and force the world to say yes. So, how do we make the world say yes? We have to be 100% with ourselves and fully assured in order to exude that energy and that confidence. And when you're walking into a room or you're taking a seat at the table or you're leading or you're heading the table, you're doing it with no sense of self discrimination. You're doing it with no sense of disparity or inequity of some sort because you don't believe. And therefore, you have the power to shift minds around you, to shift energy around you, and to help people change to accept you in a healthier way, in a more equitable way. When we look at data, it's absolutely frightening. For example, I was reading a study by McKinsey and Bank of America, Merrill Lynch. They projected the potentially tremendous impact increased women equality could have on global markets. That was the study that they did. What's the tremendous impact the issue of equality can have? If gender parity was theoretically reached by 2025, it would boost the global GDP by up to $28 trillion. So imagine the power we have as women. Just you knowing those numbers, I am part of a generation of humans on this planet who can increase the global economy by X amount of number. I have so much power. So now how do I claim that? Again, it becomes our responsibility to claim it by making room for ourselves, by going into entrepreneurship, by starting businesses, by claiming a space for ourselves. Therefore, pushing that agenda that's only going to advance and create progress across the board for everyone. It's a collective impact that's going to benefit everyone, not just women. There's so much economic data that when we look at, it either gives us an insight about the power that we have, or it tells us about the tremendous danger that we are in if we don't take it back. For example, the 2020 Global Gender Report issued by the World Economic Forum, it reveals that at the current rates, it will take 100 years before women achieve equality, which will delay the potential growth, competitiveness, and future readiness of economies and businesses worldwide. So you have the power to generate $28 trillion, but at this rate, we are 100 years away before achieving equality. It's a really complex area. We have to look at the numbers, we have to look at the data, we have to understand our weaknesses and our power. Economic data also shows that hiring women hasn't increased enough in the technology sector, along with the number of women earning degrees in areas such as tech and manufacturing, given that a large proportion of females are choosing not to go into those fields. So again, choosing not to go into those fields. And therefore, we as women are contributing to the disparity that we are complaining from. So how do we take that power back? We need more women to step forward and claim space in those areas. All that said, women have to step forward. They have to actively create their own opportunities to restore gender balance, to achieve equality, to maximize their impact on the global economy. We can't allow ourselves to settle for less or be intimidated by external barriers if we want change. Besides, women's representation and leadership across sectors is vitally important to ensuring that more females are placed in positions of decision making and authority to negotiate on issues that directly affect them and to execute on solutions that facilitate their success. So it's very critical to work on increasing the representation in those areas of authority and leadership. Otherwise, the decisions that are being made and the rules that are being made and structures that are being created, they will never be to our advantage because we are not partaking and creating them. I think the most effective approach also to inspire the next generation is to lead by example. Leaving the next generation without inspiration, without identifiable routes to pursue careers in technology, in male dominated fields, in leadership. I think it all comes down to the lack of recognition around notable women in these typically male oriented industries and positions. Ultimately, as well, if we can teach girls and young women courage and autonomy, I believe that our future generation of women will be empowered with confidence. They will be empowered with resilience and adaptability to navigate challenges and to be able to pursue their goals and ignite the same sense of purpose in everyone else around them. So it's a collective effort to educate, it's a collective effort to support, and it's a collective effort to empower female leaders and entrepreneurs and the workforce of the future. There's never enough initiative to level equality and encourage women's participation around the globe, which means we're all responsible for leading efforts. And women themselves have the biggest responsibility to look at themselves closely and understand their powers and understand their weaknesses for us to close those gaps much quicker than 100 years from now.
Yeah, that's such a great thought and such realistic steps to take and things to be thinking about. And to quickly wrap up, we have one last question, and that is, what are 3 tips or pieces of advice you want our listeners to be leaving with today?
So if we want to talk about entrepreneurship and leadership, first of all, I want to say that starting a new business is not for the faint of heart. Entrepreneurship is the riskiest, toughest, and most challenging journey at every level. And especially if you're trying to create impact and social change and you are a business with a mission that's beyond profitability. But this route can also be the most fulfilling experience that opens endless possibilities for success, and it can propel you to incredible heights of growth, both professionally and personally. My advice to those who wish to become entrepreneurs is to really understand that success requires you to be uncomfortable with uncertainty and to develop proficiency at so many levels in order to excel. My first advice would also be to be introspective with yourself, to be able to answer critical questions, to identify the true potential of your business idea, to be able to assess your skills realistically, and determine the actions that you need to take. An area that a lot of individuals underestimate is evaluating your mental and emotional readiness before stepping on an entrepreneurial path. The journey is full of mistakes and challenges and setbacks. It requires absolute commitment and undying drive, along with an ability to adapt and learn and implement quickly. My next advice is to round out the skills necessary to excel. Whether you are still a student or you are an aspiring entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. I believe that we all have to always work on developing our skills in order to excel, especially in this environment where there is fast change and there's so much development happening technologically. And we have to be so adaptable. It's not only the tools that we are using are evolving quickly, but also the habits that we need to implement and adapt to have to be learned very quickly for us to be able to use those tools effectively and integrate in the new economy in a much more efficient way. I also think that it's important to learn how to make decisions. Making confident and effective decisions, I believe, is the most valuable skill you can learn, whether you're starting a new business or you're starting a new career. You have to understand the value of decisiveness and quick action, not thoughtless action, but quick strategic action that comes with decisiveness. Business, particularly, is heavily dependent on your ability to build relationships, to instill trust, and inspire cooperation with others. So be ready to work on building your reputation and networks. Your reputation is one of your biggest assets and your real business card. Make sure that, again, you're being introspective, number one, so you understand yourself, you understand your ideas, you have a realistic assessment of your abilities and what you need to work on. Two, round up your skills, keep working on developing those skills, on becoming better, on becoming proficient on multiple fronts, becoming decisive and learning as part of rounding out those skills to become more decisive and strategic with your actions. And lastly, work on your reputation. This is your biggest asset and your real business card. So make sure that you are working on yourself on a daily basis so you know how to build healthy relationships with others. Especially as we spoke earlier about this new generation and having this drive and this ambition to create networks and rally people around new ideas. This is so important for a network building to also build your reputation as well. Lastly, I want to say one thing about work-life balance. It's impractical to think of work-life as a complete separation between your professional and personal worlds when you become an entrepreneur or when you start a new career or when you start, if you want to start a new movement, whatever you want to build for yourself. There will be no distinct boundaries. You'll have to focus on work-life integration so you can incorporate the different areas of your life in ways that are conducive to both your personal development as well as the growth of your business or project or career. So those are the few advices that I have. I hope this was insightful and helpful to our listeners. It was such a pleasure to have this conversation with you and to learn also more about you through the questions that you asked.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. This was an absolutely amazing conversation. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.